Good afternoon and welcome to Norcal APEX Accelerator's webinar. This is your introduction to defense contracting. My name is Amanda Anderson. I'm the program coordinator for Norcal APEX Accelerator. And today I'm joined by the fantastic Frank Luna, our procurement specialist. Frank Luna has over 25 years in government contracting, as well as various certifications and about government contracting and contract management. In addition to his own career in government contracting, Frank has served as an Apex procurement specialist for over 6 years, helping clients and businesses just like you navigate the complexities and nuances of contracting with government agencies. But before I pass it over to him for all of these great details that we're going to go into today, I want to let you know about our program, the APEX Accelerator program, and how we can help you with government contracting. So the APEX Accelerator program is a federally mandated nationwide network of centers that are here to provide businesses just like yours with education and training so that you can successfully contract with government agencies. Now, our entire network is over 96 centers strong, all across the US, and every center offers all of our services at absolutely no cost to you, as we are funded by both federal, state, and local grants to be here as a resource and as a support for your business. And all of our centers offer no-cost government contracting assistance, but what exactly does that assistance look like? Well, at Norcal APEX Accelerator, we're able to offer our no-cost government contracting assistance to the 15 Northern California counties that you see on your screen. And we offer the services through 3 main pillars. First, our one-on-one counseling, where once you are signed up with us as a client, you'll be paired with a procurement specialist just like Frank, who can sit down with you over Zoom. Or if you're in Humboldt County, we do have a local Humboldt County office where you can get in-person counseling. And your counselor, once paired with them, can help you with anything related to government contracting. From the initial market research of figuring out what agencies are buying your products or services, to helping you find solicitations that are relevant to your business and really good ones that you could successfully bid on. Our procurement specialists can even help you with contract compliance after you win your first one, making sure all those T's are crossed and those I's are dotted. Another fantastic resource that we offer to our clients is the custom bid matching program. And what this does is it allows you to sit down with your procurement specialist and define criteria in what a good solicitation looks like for you. So maybe your business can only perform your services in a certain geographic location. Or maybe you're working on something really innovative, really new to the marketplace, and that in and of itself would be the criteria you're looking for. Our procurement specialists can help you fine-tune all of these criteria, and we put it into a software that is able to scrape both federal, state, and local procurement sites for opportunities that are relevant based on that criteria. And it emails these opportunities directly to you. And finally, our third pillar of resources and services is what you're actually taking advantage of right now. We put on a ton of webinars and in-person workshops throughout the year covering introductory topics like we are today to more advanced topics like how to mitigate risk and how to set up a contracting plan. In addition to these webinars and trainings that we put on throughout the year, we maintain a robust website with links and resources that you can access at any time from anywhere. And that's why this is probably my personal favorite pillar of services we offer, because no matter where you are in our service area or across the country, you are welcome to access our website and attend our events whenever you are able to. It truly is a resource for you no matter where you are. So if you haven't had a chance to check out these resources, please feel free to do so. And if you are interested in more in depth training, more in depth assistance, please do sign up for your local Apex Accelerator and their no cost services. It really is a benefit to your business at absolutely no cost. So please do get connected if you are looking for that kind of assistance. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Frank for our main presentation today.
Well, thank you, Amanda. Everything okay on my end? You can hear me okay?
Sounding
Perfect.
good?
Well, thank you for the great introduction. And again, I am very happy to be here and present this introduction into the Department of Defense. Again, my name is Frank Luna. I am a procurement specialist here for Apex. And to add to Amanda's point, please utilize our services. I've been at this, as you saw, for 25 years. Apex, I think, has been around for 20 years. They were not around when I started my career in this environment. So I made a lot of mistakes that did cost the company some money, and of course, were put us in a bad position. But again, we overcame those challenges. I learned, and we were successful in the government contracting arena. So I am pleased to help you navigate this challenging sector of business for your firm if you are definitely interested in pursuing the government as a area to grow your business. So I thank you for trying to become a part of the government industrial base. It is a sector of businesses that support, of course, the government and the defense industrial base. It is critical to our national defense that we continue to support our military. Currently, small businesses have been impacted over the years, and our defense and government industrial base is down close to 40%. That means suppliers that supply the federal government are no longer there. That's why we encourage suppliers to diversify into this area. In my career, the government sector has been a great way to diversify and grow your business. It can be extremely lucrative for your business. And in my experience, the government still continues to be the largest customer in the world. Now, what we're going to cover today is, of course, who the DoD agencies is and its subcontractors or sub-agencies. The Department of Defense budgets and spend in California, of course, that impact us and our local economic development. And then lastly, we'll cover the eligibility criteria for your business to include a brief CMMC overview, which is the cybersecurity maturity model certification that will be a requirement for contractors in the DoD space. A brief disclosure: at the speed of government is changing, so this information provided is accurate to the best of the presenter's ability at the time of this presentation. Some or all of the provisions mentioned here could or may be changed by the current administration without prior notice. So we are tasked with staying on top of all the government changes. We get continual newsletters, continual updates, and we attend conferences on a regular basis to stay on top of these changes, to keep you abreast, and also to help you gauge the risk as you're entering into this space. Every business, every new business endeavor is a risk for a company. And so we're here to educate you so you can take a calculated risk and succeed in this environment. Next slide. So first and foremost, who is the Department of Defense? The Department of Defense's function, of course, is to provide the United States with military forces to protect national security and deter our threats. The military departments consist of Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, and now the U.S. Space Force. Not only is the military, but the defense agencies, the DoD manages up to 19 defense agencies that support the warfighter and national defense. Next slide. So we hope that this will help you learn not only the agency, the sub-agencies, and the sub-tiers, but to gain an understanding of what the kind of the hierarchy of the DoD is. The DoD also has Defense Advanced Research Projects named DARPA, which of course focus on innovation and technology. All of these agencies have critical needs and critical uses for our national defense. And of course, you can assume that they buy a lot of products and services. The Defense Commissary Agency, and of course, we have grocery stores at every installation. And so we need to keep our warfighters supplied. And so there are avenues for all types of different companies to penetrate this sector. We have the Defense Contracting Audit Agency, one that I'm very familiar with as far as compliance on contracts. The Defense Contract Management, again, oversight for contract compliance. And as you can start sensing the tone of this, of how to engage with government, it is mostly compliance and eligibility. There is a Defense Central Counterintelligence and Security Agency, again, handles security clearances and counterintelligence. So if you're looking to get on a base and need security clearance, you'll probably be dealing with this agency. Next slide. We have finance and accounting services. We have health agencies as well within the Department of Defense. Information systems that provides IT and cybersecurity support. We'll be touching on cybersecurity. I want to make sure that I inform you guys that cybersecurity will be something that is critical. So throughout the slide, we will be mentioning cybersecurity. We won't get too deep into cybersecurity, but it is definitely something that you have to think about. The Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, of course, Defense Legal Services. So if you're an attorney, you can probably provide consulting services within the government. Defense Logistics Agencies, the DLA, manages supply chain for the military. We have accounting agencies as well for accounting for missing personnel from the past conflicts. Next slide. Defense Security Corporation agencies administer security corporation programs and foreign military sales. The Defense Threat Reduction Agency counters weapons of mass destruction and emerging threats. The Missile Defense develops and deploys missile defense systems. So technology is something that the military definitely does procure, help small businesses develop, and is also a great supporter of what we call government innovative programs. There is also a National Security Agency, Central Security Services, Pentagon Force Protecting Agencies that protect the facilities and the surrounding grounds. So security companies are definitely needed to support military installations, federal buildings. As you can tell, anything from low-tech suppliers to high-tech suppliers. The military will procure the entire spectrum of products and services. And now we also have the Space Development Agency, develops space-based capabilities for military use. And I actually have a client who has been awarded a contract from the Space Force to support their efforts. So these contracts can, again, diversify a company's offering into the government sector. Next slide. We also have defense human resource activities, media activities for public affairs and media operations, marketing. Of course, we have the Technical Information Center that provides access to scientific and technical information. Defense technology and security systems. The education activity that operates schools for military dependents. So anybody in the education field can possibly find a contract to support military schools. The military does have, and the government does have and employ civilian contractors to perform certain scopes of work and to support the military in their efforts. Office of Economic Adjustments, then Washington Headquarters of Services that provides administration and operational support to the DoD. Next slide. These agencies, the Joint and Combat Commands, are commands that operate not only on our borders, but also overseas. So very different than the in-house agencies. But yes, you can be a supplier to a military installation in another country. We have the U.S. Special Forces Command, the Strategic Command, again, the Cybersecurity Command that conducts cyber operations, and the other U.S. Pacific Command and European Command for Foreign Opportunities. Next slide. And now we're going to get into, again, the budgets of the DoD and what is their total spend specifically for our side of the world. So we have a great tool that we often utilize to do our market research. usaspending.gov will give you the ability to access through the Freedom of Information Act that was created in 1967 for the purpose of transparency and accountability within the federal government, allows you to see where the spend is. This is what I call follow the money. For the products and services that you want to market to government, this system will tell you what agency, sub-agency, the velocity of contracts, in other words, how many events happen throughout whatever period of time you decide to select. There is a plethora of filters that you can utilize this tool to do the adequate market research to build a successful business plan. Next slide. The obligated amounts for California, of course, we're not talking about small dollars. These are $21 billion that have been obligated for the fiscal year 25 in California. Next slide. Now, these are the amount of contracts within California from the Department of Defense that are in current play for fiscal year 25. Now, a brief look, you can see the number of events. That's what I call velocity of events in contracts that are mostly awarded to large prime contractors, as you see the amounts. Prime contractors are important for us to penetrate the federal government through what we call subcontracting opportunities. Some of these obligated amounts seem very large, of course, and for a small business, it's going to be very difficult to tackle that obligation and succeed. But as a subcontractor, they can help fulfill and help execute that contract with a partnership with the prime. Next slide. Which brings me into the government subcontracting plan. The FAR, which is the Federal Acquisitions Regulations that govern all contracts in the federal government, has a FAR clause, and it's listed there below, 52.219-9 that applies to all federal contracts over the thresholds that are listed, must have a small business subcontracting plan. That means that small businesses have to be brought in by the prime contractor. The prime contractor has to do their due diligence and create outreach to bring in small businesses that are certified firms and meet the eligibility criteria to perform on these contracts. A perfect example of a well-executed subcontracting plan would be one of the military's latest, greatest fighter jets. We have the F-35, I believe it was built by Lockheed. That build that cost several $billion was built, 85% of that build was done by small businesses across 33 states. So you could be building a widget, a component, a process to execute that project. That's why small businesses are important to federal contracts and also to prime contractors if they utilize their subcontracting plans correctly and market to prime contractors that are executing federal contracts. We also have a great workshop on subcontracting strategies that specifically focuses on all the subcontracting opportunities at every level of government. The state of California has a similar process called the commercial useful function that is discussed in that workshop in depth. Next slide. One more thing on the subcontracting plan. It is there in place for local economic development. It is meant for small businesses to grow, to hire, and of course, become a large business at one point and become a prime contractor. So in following the money, we know the budgets, we know all the agencies, we're getting to know the size and all the supporting agencies of the Department of Defense, but what does the Department of Defense procure? Everything. Everything. Just keep in mind that you are trying to sell to the biggest customer in the world. So here's a list of some of the commodities that are procured at every agency of the DoD. Anything from, of course, munitions to janitorial supplies, which kind of that's where I came from as a wholesale supplier to the military. Next slide. Not only does the government procure commodities, they procure technology very heavily, as you're going to see in these NAICS codes. So the NAICS codes are the classification of what you do and how the classification of what the government procures. A North American industry classification system has been created to help you identify your core competency of your firm. These NAICS codes are what are highly procured in California and the fiscal year 25. So we have aircraft manufacturing. We know we have prime contractors in our area. And the spend under that one NAICS code for fiscal year 25 is $71 million in contracts obligated. We have guided missile and space vehicle manufacturing at $94 million. Information technology, computer and programming services at $256 million. Other computer related services under that NAICS code at $1.1 billion. R&D and physical engineering and life sciences, with an exception, at $1.5 billion. So California is also a technology hub for the military, not just in commodities. We do need to keep the warfighter armed with all the commodities, but we need to also evolve them into the next level of technology. Next slide. So how do they procure all the products and services for the DoD? Through different contract vehicles. And we're going to go through the different contract vehicles and how they procure all the products and services. So first and foremost, we have IDIQs. And yes, acronyms will be your third language or your next language. As you can see, the government is full of acronyms, and I've done my best to tell you what those acronyms are, and I'll continue to do that. If there is an acronym that I missed, I do apologize, but you can always follow up with me. So again, IDIQ contracts are for unspecified quantities or deliveries of goods and services for a fixed period. Those were typically the contracts that we were awarded as a wholesale distributor. Commodities that were continually used at a fixed price over a period of time. We have GWACs, government-wide acquisition contracts, focuses on IT products and services managed by certain agencies. We have MAS and GSA schedules, multiple award schedules, also known as GSA Advantage or Federal Supply Schedules. These provide an access to mostly commercial products and commoditized services at, again, a pre-negotiated time over a fixed period of time. GSA schedules, well, let me back up. The current administration is looking to streamline their procurement events and also reduce the cost of procurement. There is a cost to issue a contract or an RFP and have businesses compete for. From what we understand and what we've been told is that the government will be moving more towards category management for commoditized services and products. What that means is that GSA schedules will be probably used more often than IDIQ contracts or competitive RFPs. Currently, I believe there's only 10% of the procurement events that go through a GSA schedule. So the military has some work to do, but this is kind of something that we're seeing a shift in the procurement spending habits of the government. In my experience, I've seen many administrations come and go and change. One thing that is consistent, the government continues to procure all its products and services. So regardless of what administration is leading the budgets, commodities, technology, in order to keep national defense will continue. Next slide. More contract vehicles. We have BPAs, blanket purchase agreements, and these are for repetitive purchases of supplies, pre-approved vendors, and also the reducing of purchase orders, the reducing of the expense to procure the items that we need. We have OTAs. OTAs are very flexible. Other transaction agreements used primarily for R&D, prototyping, and all often involve non-traditional contractors. More in the R&D space, scientists working with nonprofit laboratories that are at an education institute. And so you'll see OTAs as well. And then we have set-aside programs specifically for small businesses. Contracts that are reserved for small businesses, and the business size is determined based on your primary NAICS code. So keep that in mind. Now the socioeconomic classes are listed there. We have an 8A for a business development program, a hub zone for historically underutilized business zones that's determined by the census, and WSBs, women-owned small businesses, and SDVOSBs, service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses. These are the contract vehicles where small businesses can compete for their specific certified set-aside contracts. Next slide. And then there's the DLA, Defense Logistics Agency. It's contracting services, manages a lot of the fuel supplies, commodities, medical equipment, often through IDIQs. And this is one site that I will preference. It is not the easiest site to navigate, the DLA, and I hope they modify their site soon. But that is kind of the theme right now of government. All government sites are getting redone. They're getting better. Some of them are being consolidated, as you'll see in some of the certification slides, and all in an effort to, again, service everybody effectively, add businesses to the defense industrial base, and have the government hire the best companies that are suited to execute the projects. There is also OASIS, the One Acquisition Solution Integrated Plus. And again, the OASIS is the government-wide contract suite for professional services. We also have DoD-specific contract vehicles. The Air Force has a contract argumentation program, which is rapid response contingency and support, including logistics and construction. Responsive support strategic services for support commands, and then global contingency services for multiple award contracts. And of course, NAVFAC is one of the emergency response logistics agencies. Next slide. And now we're going to move into the eligibility criteria. And this, for some small businesses that are just starting off, can be a long road to become eligible. Next slide. So the eligibility criteria for contracts, there is just the basic requirements, and above and beyond just the SAM registration, you will need to understand the Federal Acquisitions Regulations, the FAR. And specific to the Department of Defense, we have the DFARS, which is the Defense Federal Acquisitions Regulations Supplement. When you register on SAM, you will have a chance to read the FARs and the DFARS and acknowledge the fact that you've understood the FARs and the DFARS. Compliance, of course, includes costing principles, performance thresholds, familiarity with these regulations. And I do include a pro tip. Federal Acquisitions Regulations, FAR Part 19 and FAR Part 44 for small businesses is definitely highly recommended. That will show you and educate you on what a small business's place is in government contracting based on the FAR. I've mentioned NAICS codes, North American Industry Classification System, that identifies the core competency of your firm. When you're setting up your profiles, you will have to tell the government what NAICS codes you fall under. We have also banking information that is required. A business must have a U.S. business bank account for electronic transfer of funds to receive payments. These are the basic eligibility criteria to begin to become a vendor for the federal government. Next slide. Now, this is applicable. We have cybersecurity requirements, of course, and facility clearance requirements. So if you are dealing with technology or sensitive information, you will probably need facility clearance, and you will be dealing with the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency to have your people secure facility, get this facility clearance for the bases that you are servicing. Cybersecurity compliance. Contracts must adhere to the cybersecurity model, the CMMC, or the NIST 800-171. I forgot the -1 at the end of there, but there is also a -2 now, 800-171-2. That is the framework for the cybersecurity certification. So if you're handling controlled unclassified information or federal contract information, CUI or FCI, I forgot the federal contract information there, but that's what that FCI stands for, then you will need to abide by the cybersecurity requirements. And again, you will have to submit the results through SAM to SPARS. That might be a requirement for contracts that require a higher level of security clearance, or if you're working on technical information. Contractors, general service contractors, or general construction contractors, I will let you know if you are working on a federal installation, you are working on blueprints of that federal installation, you will have to have some form of cybersecurity implementation to protect that information. Now, to use an analogy of this, why is cybersecurity becoming more predominant for small businesses? Because of the need, of the threat, and the proven theft of military documents. And I go back to the example of the F-35. The F-35 was built at over $1 billion. Well, we know for a fact that through cybersecurity breaches, through a small business, China was able to acquire the plans to that fighter jet. They have replicated that fighter jet at a fraction of the cost of less than $100 million. $70 to $100 million was the estimated build for their equivalent, pretty much replica of our F-35. And again, the breach did come through a small business. So that's why these requirements are being more and more important. And there is also a timeline of implementation, as you'll see in other slides. But we all know, and we've all heard of breaches in security, not only for government. We've heard it in the private sector, where data is stolen and who knows what it's used for. So keep that in mind, that if you're going to become a cybersecurity or a government contractor, cybersecurity will be a requirement. Next slide. Now, certifications for small businesses. I will preface this that certifications do not win awards. You will hear that some folks will just get certified and contracts will just fall on your lap. It does not happen that way. But the government does allocate 23% of the federal spend towards small businesses. And also within those small businesses, there's a subset of goals, as you'll see there listed. We have 5% of that 23% towards WSBs, 5% for small disadvantaged businesses, 3% for service disabled, veteran-owned small businesses, 3% for hub zone certified firms. Now, these certifications not only allow you to compete in that sector, but prime contractors are looking for small businesses that are certified to comply with their FAR Clause 52.219-9 in their subcontracting plan. The federal government's total allocation for small businesses in fiscal year 24 exceeded the 23% and totaled in the amount of $176 billion from the Department of Defense to small businesses. The set-aside contracts, of course, allow you to compete in that sector. If you do are eligible for these certifications, they are managed and the application process has to be done through the Small Business Administration. We do have a workshop on certifications as well that you can also actually take a review and look at the process of what it takes to become a certified firm. If you do not wish to compete for contracts, I do recommend that you acquire your certifications for your business. Certifications, I like seeing a certified firm because I do support small businesses. Local impact, local economy, I shop small. I like to shop, and there are other companies out there that like to shop small businesses. Some people like to work with service disabled owned small businesses. Some people like to see a woman-owned small business succeed. Those are great certifications to market your firm's ownership and certifications as a federal contractor or just to penetrate the prime contractor space as well. Next slide. Other criteria, if you're into munitions, international tariffs and arms regulations certifications you'll need or need to be compliant, if applicable again. And then one of the key critical components for eligibility is capability and past performance. Your capability statement and your documented past performance is critical for you to showcase your ability to execute a project. Past performance in the commercial sector is definitely acceptable, or in any other sector of government, to show that your company has the wherewithal, facilities, capacity to execute. Now, past performance, you might think, well, I'm a new company, I have the expertise, we want to start with the federal government or any government entity. But you also want to look at yourself honestly, is your company hireable, lacking the past performance in a contracting officer's view? Look at objectively. And I use an analogy of, as an example, if you are hiring a professional to come work at your facility or your home. As an example, if you need a new roof on your home, you have two companies to choose from. One that's been open for a year with very little past performance, probably has the expertise, all the licenses and insurances needed to operate. You have another company with 20 years of proven experience, past performance, and an established company. Who would you trust to put a new roof on your home? Of course, price is in consideration, but references has a very big weight to your hiring capabilities. So compliance and solicitation requirements. This is where I tell everybody to read the RFP in its entirety. The RFP will definitely very specific, show you what the requirements of the scope of work is, prevailing wage if applicable, the evaluation criteria, critical as to how you comply and execute the project. You need to submit a responsible and responsive bid in order to possibly win an award. Entity validation, legal business information, of course, your entity has to be filed with the IRS. It has to have a physical location, no PO boxes, no virtual addresses are allowed as government contractors. And again, it ties back into the whole cybersecurity, making sure that you're eligible to execute a project. And either if it's a sole proprietor or not, you can become a government contractor as long as the information is valid. And they can go through the validation process through the Federal Service Desk and Defense Logistics Agencies. Next slide. So additional considerations, network and support, of course, engage with what we call SBLOs, small business liaison officers that are at the agency level. And we can help you, of course, find who those SBLOs are, where you can begin to market your firm's core competencies and capabilities to perform on contracts. We also have the Small Business Development Center that can guide and help you comply with and identify opportunities as well. So the proposal development. I often get the question, is there a template for proposals? No, there is not. The bidding requirements do require significant investment in reading a proposal and understanding how to develop the proposal to be compliant. The business should prepare for a long sales cycle when trying to win their first contract. And this is the norm. 80% of your work, if you're new to government, will be research, marketing, pre-bid selling. 20% will actually be preparing the document and submitting the actual proposal. But the proposal development does require investment. One story that I will tell you, I invested 15 months in trying to win a contract for a certain agency. And in those 15 months was working with the stakeholders of the agency, looking at the work performed by the incumbent, and waiting for that contract to be posted up for competition once the term was up. 15 months in learning the client, learning the customer, and 15 months in preparing my strategy to win. By that time, by the end of the 15 months, it came out, we were ready for it, prepared it, and won a contract. The client knew of us. We had built a relationship in those 15 months, and they had the confidence that we could execute the contract. So there is a long sales cycle if you are new to the agency. Lastly, your SAM registration does need to be renewed and maintained annually. The SAM registration is your vendor profile within the government. Any changes to your firm need to be communicated in SAM. If your bonding or insurance goes up, if your business bank account changes, if you add different capacities of NAICS codes, different competencies, you need to ensure that your SAM profile is current and up to date. Next slide. In conclusion, the government, again, continues to be the biggest customer in the world. So I do definitely recommend that you understand the procurement landscape of the DoD. SAM, the System of Award Management that you've heard us discuss and talk about, is the starting point for all vendors to begin the registration process with the federal government. I do not recommend that anybody register in SAM by themselves. I do recommend that you process your SAM registration with the support of an advisor. The language can be confusing, and of course, it is all tied to the federal acquisitions regulations that you will have to check a box that you understand and abide by. We help clients become contract ready so they can prepare to compete for bids. SAM will issue you a UEI, what we call a unique entity identifier. You will list your NAICS codes and you'll look for contracts to compete for, whether it's a GSA schedule, multiple award schedule, or any other of the contract vehicles that we discussed. Prepare a marketing strategy and a pre-bid selling strategy by monitoring SAM and another site that we mentioned, acquisitions.gov, for the planning and forecasting of where the money is going at the agency level for the government. Unlike the state and local, the federal government will not invite you to bid on a solicitation. You have to market your products and compete for them. Again, government has been extremely lucrative in my experience. I have seen customers successfully penetrate the federal government with an effective business plan that they execute. It is definitely a daunting task to enter this space, but we are here to help. Please utilize the support that we have. To Amanda's point, we have a ton of information and workshops, plus my colleagues are experts in the field as well. So if I don't know the information or have an answer for you, we will find it. Next slide. And here again, the colleagues that we have that are also professionals, anyone that you get paired up with, you will not be disappointed. The link there will help you register if you're not a client already. Please register to become a client. Now, I believe if you just register for this workshop, does not mean that you're a client. There's an additional step that you need to take to get on one-on-one counseling and to begin to prepare your business plan. Next slide. I think we're done.
Yeah, that was fantastic, Frank. Thank you so much. And as Frank was saying, the APEX Accelerator program as a nationwide network is here to help you no matter where your business is located, no matter what step in your procurement journey that you are at. So please do connect with your local APEX Accelerator Center to get more in-depth and more specific to your business assistance. I do know that webinars can be a great place to ask questions, especially if you have specific questions. But we don't exactly want to get into your specific business details in a public webinar. So that's where our counseling really shines. So if you are interested, I just dropped the APEX Accelerator locator link so you can find your local no-cost assistance center for your procurement journey. But before we go into the questions that I'm seeing in the Q&A, I do want to let you all know a little bit about some of our other federally focused webinars that are coming up, including one just next week. Federal Contracting Tools to Succeed During Uncertainty. Our fantastic procurement specialist, Mary Jo Juarez, will be presenting about the regulatory uncertainty that we're seeing at the federal level and how your business can stay responsive and stable throughout it all. And then in September, Frank will be back with us for the second part of this event, helping your business avoid pitfalls and learning how to interpret DoD solicitations with confidence. So please do register for that if you are interested in truly pursuing DoD contracting. I know that is going to be an absolutely fantastic event. But we'll also be covering cybersecurity basics and how you can get CMMC Level 1 certified in October. And we'll also go into how and when to communicate with your contracting officer once you're connected with that agency in November. So if you are interested in some of our other trainings, please do check out our website, apexnorcal.org/trainings. And you are always welcome to register. They are always at no cost to you. So I do hope that these will be able to help you along your procurement journey. And with that, let's go into some of these questions. And there were quite a few questions. A handful of them, I did provide links and resources to kind of answer that question, but there were a few I really wanted to go into. So Joy was wondering about the SBE, the Small Business Enterprise Certification. She noticed that that wasn't mentioned here. Is that
Incorrect.
applicable to DoD?
Correct. That was not mentioned because we did focus on federal certifications. The SBE is a small business enterprise certification normally issued at the local level. There is probably a local agency that is requiring that in government, but it is not a federal certification that is honored. One thing to keep in mind, there is no reciprocity on certifications between local, state, and federal. Well, let me back up, between federal and local and state. There is reciprocity between state and local. There can be, but none between federal and state.
Perfect. And that's great clarification. I know it can be really hard. There are so many certifications, from like state certifications to like corporate certifications to local certifications. It can be really hard to keep it straight. So all the federally recognized certifications were mentioned in this webinar. And then Michelle was wondering, will SAM send account holders emails as a reminder to renew?
Yes, they will. And be aware that SAM from .gov, it will probably be a federal service desk that will send out a communication on your renewal. But anything from a .com, please do not pay attention. There's a lot of scammers out there that are looking at your registration and will send you out notifications that, hey, you're about to expire. We can renew it for free, or for a fee, I should say.
Yeah.
You'll give them your admin rights and they take over your account. We do not recommend pay for services to register your SAM or to renew your SAM. We can assist with that if you have any questions or need help in navigating your SAM, or if you just receive a communication from that you think might not be or is from SAM, please forward it to us. We'll be able to verify that communication, that it is not a scammer and that it is a valid government entity.
Absolutely. And that's a good point to clarify, is the SAM registration is absolutely no cost for you to complete or have as of today. Of course, things can change, but as of right now, there's absolutely no reason you need to pay money to complete your SAM registration, especially with the APEX Accelerator Centers offering that assistance at absolutely no cost. So if you are looking for help, definitely connect with your local center. And then let's see, there was one, Michelle was wondering about offering housing and economic development. There was an agency that mentioned that, correct?
Yep.
That's
Yes.
opportunities with DoD?
It could be the DoD for military housing, but I've also seen it for the VA. The VA does do housing for their vets. And that's where I've seen that or activity for that specific sector from that agency. But if you do want to conduct some market research to really give you a accurate assessment of who is buying your service, definitely we can set something up where we can look at the current spend and then also forecasting what is on the books for the rest of the year.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I think all of our counselors usually start with when they get a new client is, what agencies are we targeting? Doing that market research to make sure you're not trying to connect with an agency that doesn't even buy what you sell, you know?
Correct.
And then I think this will be one of the last ones. I think this is fantastic. Scott is attending the Federal Supernova event next week. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
I'm not. Next week I'm attending, as you know, the Navy Gold Coast event.
Yeah.
So if it is anything similar to the Navy Gold Coast, any networking events where you have federal agencies that are looking to engage with businesses for their products and services is highly recommended. You want to
Absolutely.
network, Yeah, you want to network and make yourself known to these agencies that you can fulfill on their needs, their local needs, of course, that you are within their geographic footprint to supply them or support whatever the warfighter needs. So yes, build the relationships. Uh, do take your capability statements or your business cards to those events. Be the Walmart greeter at those events, not only with the agencies. You want to talk to the prime contractors in that space as well. Maybe other small businesses, maybe you can partner up to execute a contract by combining forces. So these events that will bring businesses and agencies together are great.
Absolutely. Yeah, and Scott was wondering how can you maximize that? You gave so many great tips, just capability statement being that I love the way you say it, the Walmart door greeter.
Yep.
I love that so much.
Yeah, it's your chance to again look at the competitive landscape within your area. Who are the stakeholders, possible partners, competitors? You don't know until you really take a peek as to what the need is that the government's trying to fulfill.
Absolutely. And I would love to wrap up our event with this one question, Michelle. Based on the networking, how would you recommend they stay connected with these networking events and ensure that they're attending the local ones that are going to be really beneficial for them?
Well, partner up and register with all the local agencies that support small businesses, not just the apexes, not just the small business development centers, but local and state. You have possible municipalities that have outreach programs as well that they might coordinate with state or federal agencies. And it is all about the local economic development. So you will have a pretty good mix of local, state, and federal at these events, but you do have to register and get the newsletters. Some of these agencies will send out newsletters for those mixers. And if you do a meet and greet, ensure that you follow up after the meet and greet as well. Make sure that you continue to cultivate that relationship. I often get clients that make great connections initially, but then forget about them after 6 months. So those, again, relationships need to be cultivated.
Absolutely. And with that, I do believe we will go ahead and wrap up as we are at the top of the hour. So thank you all so much for joining us today. And Frank, thank you so much for such a great presentation. There's a lot of details to cover, and I think you gave enough for everybody to kind of understand. At least I feel like I understood, and explore more, really dive in depth into this if that's something they want to do for their business. So thank you so much for this presentation, Frank.
Thank you, Amanda.
And with that, once again, thank you all so much for joining us. As you exit the webinar, you'll be redirected to our feedback survey. We truly do put on these trainings and these webinar events to benefit you and your business. And the survey is your way to let us know how we're doing on that. So if you think this was a fantastic event, presented really well at the introductory level, right where you needed it, please do let us know. We love to hear when we are doing well so we can continue down that path. On the flip side, if you feel like maybe you're ready for the next step, you're ready to go into those contracting vehicles in depth, or maybe you want more specific training on each agency's procurement process, that survey is also the place to let us know where we can better serve you and your business. So any feedback you have is always greatly appreciated as it helps us better our resources and training so that we can help you really succeed in government contracting.
Excuse me.
And with that, I'd like to, for one last time, thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your evening.
Thank you so much, Amanda.
Yeah. Have a good night. Drink.
Bye-bye.